Welcome to part 16 of this video series on comic book coloring. My name is Mike. Today we're going to do another variation of the ever popular and ubiquitous grab and grad style. I call it grab and smudge. All you're going to need is your lasso tool, a smudger of some sort, and either the smudge tool in Photoshop or the blend tool in Mega Studio is what I'm using, and an airbrush, and maybe a couple stippling brushes. So just like with everything, I mean, outside of maybe one or two videos, the tools have been super common. So as you can see on Captain America's chest there, I'm just throwing color in spots, kind of finding colors that I like, and then I'm smearing them around. But I'm doing it in nice, fluid, even strokes, or at least that's what I hope to be doing, to create texture and color separation and a little bit of contrast. Like that. And that's what I'm doing. This isn't a style I necessarily invented like a lot of the ones in this image. By the way, this is part of a much bigger image of the Avengers with 16 characters, and we're coloring each one with a different style. I wasn't sure what to do for Cap, and I realized I should just do one of the things that I naturally do, which is use the smudge tool to create these separations, and I've never seen anyone else do it. It's just what looks natural to me, I suppose. And yeah, that's it. It's just something that it's when I look at a work and it's like, oh, I can do it like that, and I don't know, I don't necessarily know how people do everything everything that they is. I did grow up in the hood, by the way, but if you saw me, you would not think that. I have the glasses and the mopped top of a man without intention. And I use big words even though I'm not very smart. I have the vocabulary of a much smarter man. But anyways, yeah, so we kind of go around Cap like this, piece by piece. I don't know that it's good that I do what I do like this, but it's sort of one of the elements of my style. And we talk a lot about the elements of style in this video series. We have those three pillars, what tools you use, your level of detail. And we don't go anywhere near realistic looking with Captain America. I keep him. I always want to say we. I always want to go plural. First person plural. I keep him very comic book like, and I'm really just smearing around, and then you'll see me go back to a few sections. This took a while because it was the first time that I was thinking about the things that I just do naturally. And as soon as you're aware of, or trying to be aware of what you do and not just doing what you do, it becomes very, very hard to sort of articulate why it is what it is. I think that one of the reasons that I tend to smear things around so much is I just prefer to work freehand. And I feel a certain restriction in having to lasso out every section. And the one thing, the downside is that oftentimes you don't have as big of value jumps as you'd like. Like if you look at Psylocke, when I watched the Psylocke video, that is just a variation of grab and grad where we're using layer mask. You could almost see it right there. And since I got to pick the very specific values and we're not messing with them, there's a lot of separation. But when you start smudging things and blending things in, the values can blend. And that's something to watch for. So the values are actually too close. They become too close by the end of the image, and I make some color corrections to fix that. I've tried not to make too many corrections on all of the characters because video 19, or one of the videos, is going to be me doing color corrections on all of the characters and overlay layers and special effects and screens. And then we'll do one on a background, and then we'll be done. So the only character we have left here is Thor, and I'm gonna treat him like he's a comic book cover. I'm gonna go holy roller. I'm just gonna throw it all at him. It's gonna be, I'll call it bringing it all together or something like that, and we'll go in and just go nuts I've always liked coloring his arms because you can do something very polychromatic. You can bring in every color and really make them shine and shimmer and uh, create that godlike persona for him. It's pretty cool. I did paint a little bit here freehand, but then I'm just going to blend it down. I don't go into too much detail. Did I say that? I probably did. I tried not to. Unlike a lot of people will tell you not to work zoomed in, and I like to work zoomed in, but the problem with that is that sometimes I don't keep in my mind. I need to have like a coefficient system where I know exactly like level 3 detail, level 8 detail, and sometimes I'll pull back and the head is like photoed and it's photoed up and I got all these textures in there and there's a big hue shift and it looks like a real material and then the rest of the body was like just a flat. And it's like, God, how are you so bad? At least I'm able to recognize when I'm terrible. That's important too. But not perfect, guys. Ask my wife. I wasn't sure what to do with those tan spots on him. I looked at some pictures of Captain America, and sometimes those aren't even on his uniform. These are J. Scott Campbell pencils, by the way. Grab the link below, grab the flats, do this exercise. I got a lot out of it. I really did. Especially when I was on Ultron, and I'm like, what? I'm out of things. I've got nothing. How am I supposed to color this guy? And so I looked at a bunch of manga, which I never look at because it reads backwards. And that hurts my head. Like I said, not super smart. So it's kind of funny to see him when I pan out next to Mary Jane, who is in a super minimal style. So it says that I'm using this paintbrush, this Texture Painter 2 or whatever, but I was really just using it for when you don't push down. In Mega Studio, it's got this neat feature, and you can turn it on and off, but instead of a brush having like a size jitter from like tiny to huge, you can have it so 50% of the brush is painting, and then the other 50% of pressure, so pressure from 0 to 50 to half, is blending. And for digital painting, that's really cool and also really destructive. I go both ways. I make brushes with both. But that particular blend in the first 50% has this super long pull and by pull, I mean how far you can drag the pixels out. Like sometimes you have a really, really hard edged blender I don't know how to describe it. The settings are strange. So I think of the blender as being like a big ball, and it either sucks the pixels in and just starts multiplying them together to get values, or you're sort of, as you drag, you're just leaving what you started. So if you start in a light color, you might be able to drag that really far, and you're blending less. And all of them have a different sort of feel, and none of them feel organic, to be perfectly honest, because the blenders are frankly much easier to use than if you were trying to do it with actual paint on a canvas, which all just turns to mud if you don't really know what you're doing. And here you don't have that problem, which is cool. See, I'm getting in the little folds. Looking at the finished product, I didn't do a very good job with the folds, but it was starting to take a while. Because it was hard. It was hard and I didn't want to. So in the spots where the highlights are, quote unquote, it's pushing into green. It's blue green pushing towards green. And then the lighter the blue, the closer it is to blue green. And then it gets into almost purple in the really dark spots. that's how I mean, if you just think about it like that, you'll create a Captain America that looks roughly the way that this guy does. His blues are almost purple. His light blues are almost green. That was an easier way to say that. If you saw there, his pants, the hues in his pants did not match his chest. So I'm making corrections to get them together. I brought in a lot more blue and darkened the darks, and then I brought the saturation down a little bit. Just a bit of a color correction. Here I'm still making brushes, still testing brushes, so I generally keep an empty canvas so I can just, I mean, I do the same thing when I'm working traditionally. I just have a blank sheet of paper. I didn't color any of his line art. I thought about coloring his shield, the shield line art, or at least the black lines on the shield, but I ended up not. Because I just wanted to give it that, it's a classic comic book coloring with a twist. There's a little bit of painting, a little bit of opacity, a little texture here and there, but he's Captain America. He should look, if anything should look like a comic book, it should be this guy. Once Thor is done, guys, I'm really going to be excited to finish this image and stop looking at it. Each character individually is fine, but since you're working something, I was talking to someone about this, and they're like, "Oh, why didn't you just gray out all the images as you did it? It would have been like easier on your eyes and blah 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 blah." And I felt immediately like a moron. That would have been a lot better for the videos, but too late now. Way too late. Grab and smear? Grab and grunge. I don't know what to call this. Until I started doing him, I didn't realize that I did anything that was sort of original or that I hadn't seen other people do. Because oftentimes you'll see a mix where people are taking a more painterly approach and blending things and using textured brushes and things, and then there are sections or pieces that are your traditional grab and grad. But this is a true, I don't know that it's a mix of that. I don't know what it is. It is what it is, and it has a very distinct look. And I don't know whether it's good or bad, but anytime you do something original that other people aren't doing, that's a good thing. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't refine this, because I've never really thought about it, and I've certainly never consciously went after a whole character this way. But it's something that I'm going to think about a lot more in the future and how I can perfect this method. And the end result was, it was okay. I mean, he looks like Captain America. That's good, right? One of the problems I have is that J. Scott Campbell's, I shouldn't say problems, but I used this image simply because there was such a collection of characters, and I didn't put much thought into the style of the inks, and I just don't. I like much messier inks. This is, an updated version of what you saw from the 60s, this is just basically super refined Jack Kirby, right? And I prefer a bit more mess in my inks. I don't want to say slop, but I just like them. I like them a little bit rougher, and that doesn't mean less detailed, per se. I like big, open, cartoony inks with no hatching too. I think it's just that's what it is. It's this very traditional orthodox, rigidly sequential hatching that is everywhere. That for me, it's just not how I would. It's not how I would draw it. I mean, let's. This isn't how I would draw it for a number of reasons beyond the hatching, and and it's not like a limitation. I can hatch just fine, and I'm still very much learning how to draw, and drawing every day. And by no means do I think that I could draw better than J. Scott Campbell, because that's just not true. The guy rules. But this stylistically, this just isn't where the way that I color works best. I guess I should say that. Coming up after the Thor video, or maybe before, I just for fun, I'm doing one of those DeviantArt color battle things because I'm not sure how I got to the page, but I landed on the page and the image was just so like offensive to me. I don't like hypersexualism in comic books. I think it's weird. It makes me uncomfortable, and it's not like, I don't know. It's not like a morality thing. So it's this like lesbian scene of Vampirella and Morrigan, and I'm going to color that and enter it just because it's something that maybe professionally I'll be asked to color for money and I won't be able to turn it down. And if I don't practice or get some idea of what is supposed to work and what isn't, and how skin works when characters, it just, I don't understand. I guess that's what it is. I don't understand the point of like a lesbian scene. Not necessarily, if it serves the story, it's fine. Think about Westworld. Like the characters are naked in Westworld all the time, but it makes sense. But it's like every like action movie in the 80s where like a girl would just jump out of a cake and be naked for no reason. That bothers me. I mean, if you're going to show me someone naked, let there be a reason. And that's movies where it's real and at least you can appreciate something about it. Like when I look at a comic book, like in no way am I like turned on. Like I would certainly hope no chick is like, or dude, whatever your deal is, looks at Captain America is like, whoa, what a hunk. I can't. That was the first time I've ever said the word hunk, ever. That was weird, really weird. I kind of want to start the video over because I said that, but whatever. If you noticed right before I started blending this, if the rest of his body hadn't been done to what I did, I could have just left those hard edges everywhere and it would have looked okay. If we were going to... See, I'm starting to feel weird that I didn't represent grab and gradding, like traditional grab and gradding, anywhere in this image, even though it's the foundation of comic book coloring. Kind of like how the shield looks. All right, well, I'm going to let the rest of this play out without audio. Thanks for being here, and if you do this with your own work, link me like your DeviantArt or wherever you post it. I would love to see someone else's interpretation of all these different, you do your 18 styles of comic book coloring or whatever it is. And the next video is going to be Thor, then we're going to do the background, then we're going to do overlay layers and color corrections and masks and some type of, we'll probably use blurs. We'll do all kinds of adjustment layers. I'll probably do those in Photoshop and not in Manga Studio. I was trying to do this whole thing in Manga Studio because I want to learn it as much as possible. And I've been working in Photoshop long enough that outside of practice, there's nothing for me to learn technically. So enjoy the video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.